Hello, wonderful people of the internet. Welcome back to another NHL predictions video, where today I will be predicting the Metropolitan Division for the 2024-2025 NHL season. I've already done the Pacific Division and the Central Division, and today we move on to the East, where we'll start with the Metro. So without further ado, let's get right into it with who I think will finish last in the Metro Division. This one's kind of sad to rank because Columbus is one of the teams I subtly cheer for, but I do think that this next season they'll be competing to be the worst team in the league, especially after the loss of Patrick Laine, which I know a lot of Columbus fans wouldn't even say that that's a big loss because he was a big cap hit or whatever and just was injured all the time. But he was still a good scorer, and other than him, I think Johnny Gaudreau's really overrated. Every time I watch him, I'm never really impressed. Adam Fantilli's on the come up. This bottom six and even bottom nine just doesn't really have much. They're not going to score a ton of goals. Their first defensive pairing is pretty good with Rowinski and Severson, but other than that, they don't have any defense. But their goalies are horrible, and this team is just on paper one of the lesser rosters out there. So I have them finishing last in the division with 62 points. Now, when you look at the Flyers, this is a team that I think overachieved a little bit last year. We really start to see them fizzle out towards the end of the season last year. When the games that mattered most came up, they did not show up. As a common fan of the Red Wings trying to make the playoffs last year, I was not a fan when the Flyers pulled their goalie and lost that game for the Red Wings. They had a great start to the year and had a pretty solid place in like third or fourth in the division for most of the year, but teams really started to catch up and figure them out. And once that happened, this team's power play was awful. They just could not score goals. And when Carter Hart left the team, their goaltending was awful, and they did nothing to fix that narrative in the offseason. They have the same goaltenders as last year. These two might be the worst goalie tandem in the NHL. I know Tortorella likes to block shots and all, and I know they have that Russian guy, Michikov or whatever, coming, and he's going to score some goals, but he's also just kind of a question mark. No one knows how many goals he's going to score, and even if he does, like, this forward group doesn't look horrible, but they didn't score a ton last year, and I don't think they got any better. And I think they're going to be maybe what they should have been a little bit more last year. I was super low on the Flyers coming into last year, and they proved me wrong, but I'm not buying into it. I'm super low on them again. So if they prove me wrong twice, then fair enough. But I still just have the Flyers this year getting 7th in the Metro. The Penguins are kind of scary to predict because on paper, this roster has so many weapons that honestly can turn it up at any given time, especially with the additions of Cody Glass and Blake Lizotte. Like, all four lines are pretty solid for Pittsburgh, but you have to remember that this team's only getting older. They didn't make a ton of changes. Although their blue line can be better than what they were last year, their goalies I'm not a fan of. And they kept the same two goalies, re-signed them both from last year. Like, I think Nedeljkovic had a little bit better of a year than Jari, but they're both just still doesn't feel like starting goaltenders to me. I thought last year that Pittsburgh was going to have a bounce back year and that their 1 year missing the playoffs was kind of a fluke, but I was wrong. They missed the playoffs again, and I just really don't see any reason why you would predict them to bounce back this year if they didn't last year. This team is clearly just past their prime. Even with Crosby having an MVP season last year like he did and still missing the playoffs, asking him to do that again is just a little much at his age, and I don't see this team making the playoffs, and I have them getting 6th in the Metro. Here's a team I definitely think overachieved a bit last year. With additions Pierre-Luc Dubois and Andrew Mangiapane, that could add to scoring depth, which they desperately need, but still not a ton to be desired there, as this team is also one that's getting older. Ovechkin is very much past his scoring prime. I think we saw that for the majority of last year. He doesn't move very much. He doesn't play very much defense. He's become pretty lazy. But where this team shines is their defense. Additions Jacob Chikrin and Matt Roy, I think, are going to be massive to an already pretty solid blue line that they had last year in Washington. And also, Logan Thompson is a great addition. With the departure of Darcy Kemper, I think Charlie Lindgren played a phenomenal season last year. I expect him to be I don't even know who's going to start, honestly, because Logan Thompson's that good too. But this tandem and this blue line, phenomenal. I just don't think. I think they're going to struggle to score again this year. I don't have them making the playoffs. I think they were an absolute anomaly making it last year. Could they make the playoffs? Maybe. I think they have a better chance than Pittsburgh. That's why I have them above Pittsburgh barely in this division. I don't know. I just don't trust this team. I'm getting tired of this roster. But we'll see. These last two teams, Pittsburgh and Washington, kind of tough to predict, but I have them both missing the playoffs, coming in 6th and 5th in the division. I just decided to get real spicy because in my notes, I literally had the Carolina Hurricanes getting 3rd, and I just switched it around. Something about these next two teams, I feel like things are going to change. Carolina dumped a lot of their roster that has made them so successful the last couple years, and although they replaced a lot of those guys with decent players, I just think this team's identity is going to change. I don't think that the goaltenders here in Carolina are solid enough to be able to backbone that change. I think maybe this team struggles off the gate to start the season and maybe takes a little bit to recover their identity as a team. I still think this team is good enough on paper to make the playoffs as the second wild card in the East, but I do think this team gets a lot worse than what they've been this regular season juggernaut the last few years. And I think the team above them also is going to be a lot better next year. So I have the Hurricanes dropping to 4th in the Metro as the second wild card in the East. In with the spice. The New York Islanders have an incredible top two lines, especially with the addition of Anthony Duclair, who they got on a great contract. Their blue line, top to bottom, is super good and solid, and their goalies are even better. This is coming from someone for the last 2 years who has honestly hated the Islanders. I hate it when they make the playoffs. I think they're super boring, and they've been an automatic first round exit. But I even called Ilya Sorokin overrated last year when he was the favorite to win the Vezina at the beginning of the year. I think he might have heard me because this is a Tendy that is super capable of having a bounce back year, and even if he doesn't, Semyon Varlamov is just as capable of being the starter on this team. I think a full season with Patrick Waugh on this team, they can be solid. And with teams in the East and in the Metro getting worse, like the Carolina Hurricanes, I see the Islanders as a team that is going to get better the more that this roster plays together. Bo Horvat and Matthew Barzal are two elite goal scorers that can carry the team on their back. Brock Nelson is good as well. And I just like the direction that this team is going in. Again, coming from someone who thinks this team has been boring and not very good the past couple of years. So yeah, I think the Islanders pass the Hurricanes this year and get 3rd in the Metro. I have the New Jersey Devils coming in 2nd place in the Metro with the biggest improvement in the NHL from last year, going from 81 points to 107. What they did, revamping the blue line here, along with getting Jacob Markstrom, it's exactly what they needed to improve this team. They answered the questions with the right pieces. They're going to get guys like Dougie Hamilton back. Jack Hughes will be healthy. A team that struggled massively with injuries last year, and they're going to be healthy with a strong blue line and hopefully a decent goalie in Jacob Markstrom. This team should be elite. On paper, I mean, if Luke Hughes takes another step in the right direction on the blue line too, this team should be elite. I know they're the sexy pick. It's kind of ballsy to predict an 81-point team to just jump 26 points the next season. But on paper, this roster just is one of the best rosters in the league. It's hard not to put them up there. I didn't quite put them at number 1 because I think the team above them is still just that much more solid. But I do have New Jersey back in the playoffs just like they were the year before. It's important for them to stay healthy. And Sheldon Keefe comes in as the head coach. We'll see how he does. But yeah, I have New Jersey back in the playoffs at number 2 in the Metro. Coming in at number 1 in the Metro, I have the New York Rangers running it back as the division title winners. This team didn't change much. They lose Barclay Goodrow, Eric Gustafson, as well as Alexander Wenberg. Not huge losses, and there was also a lot of Jacob Trouba drama. But honestly, as the captain of the team, I can see Trouba taking that as motivation to step it up and lead this team the way he's capable of doing. I think Igor Shesterkin is probably the best goaltender in the league, maybe behind Connor Hellebuyck. But this team seems to only be getting better as their roster keeps chugging along. Alexis Lafreniere is showing up to be a superstar in the league. Panarin probably has a setback year after the MVP season last year, but as long as you have consistent seasons that have guys like Trocheck, Kreider, and Zibanejad, Adam Fox, one of the best defensemen in the league, with the backbone of your team in Igor Shesterkin, there's no reason why this team shouldn't finish number one. And spoiler alert for my betting futures video I'm going to drop in a bit, but I do have the Rangers coming out of the East this year. I think that they are capable. I think it's their year. We'll see what they do at the deadline. That's been a struggle for them the past couple years, figuring out how to win the deadline. I just think that after their run last year, no one was going to beat Florida, but I think the Rangers have what it takes to win the East next year, as well as finishing on top in the Metro. That's going to do it for my Metropolitan Division rankings for the 2024-2025 NHL season. Let me know down in the comments what you agree with or disagree with. This one was relatively one of the chiller ones to make. Don't even get me started with the Atlantic Division because, gosh, that division can go any way. I'll be uploading that video next along with my betting futures video. But if you made it to the end of this one, thank you so much. You're amazing. And yeah, well, I'll talk to you. Peace.